What's a deep, dark rabbit hole to research when bored? Money laundering and how laundered money flows around the world. Most info is public from gov agencies like the CIA and State Department. The history of lobotomies and cannibalism. I have spent more time researching these topics than the time taken to write a 90-page essay. Super fascinating if you don't get grossed out. Shipwrecks. Been absolutely obsessed with them the past few days. There's so much to discover and learn about, and so much corruption as well as just interesting circumstances that these huge machines go down in. And adding to that, technical diving accidents. Especially in shipwrecks. You can dive down to the sunken Andrea Doria, that wrecked because another enormous ship collided sideways into it, ship and collect first-class dinnerware as plunder, but people have died, seemingly becoming lost in the complete darkness of the hulls inside, or user error in any capacity, such as not having the correct oxygen tank levels leading to hallucinations and false confidence that makes you drown. Edit. I can't thank you guys enough for all the media recommendations and personal anecdotes from these shipwrecks. I have a lot to binge for the next few weeks, and I am fascinated by the stories shared in these comments. The sea is completely indifferent, and if you fuck around you find out. When I worked at a call center, we often had quiet times and the internet blocked most things. Unusual wiki articles kept me entertained for quite some time though. It's full of random strange things. People who go missing. This one I'm particularly fascinated with for some reason. Maybe it's because I like this YouTuber and how he formats his videos, but I've watched this video about a missing Canadian girl 3 times. Personally, I think she was groomed by a dude she met online, and that guy kidnapped her and is holding her captive, like the Joseph guy from Austria years back. For me, it has been the Delphi murders. 2 teen girls murdered 5 years ago on a hiking trail. Image and audio of the suspected killer. Yet he has not been identified. It's a spooky case. There's a whole web of content creators and a bunch of theories. Some wild, some plausible. I somehow think the case is simpler than folks are making it. At the same time, it's just eerie in a way I can't put my finger on. Caving and cave diving accidents. Accidentally watched one in YouTube, then went down the rabbit hole. This led to some more parallel topics of horrible fates, bad deaths, etc. After a few days, started getting disturbed sleep as this became my routine of watching before the sleep time. With self-restraint, finally I got out of it. Religious cults. There's so many documentaries out there, literally weeks of entertainment. I spent like a solid month a year or 2 ago watching documentaries/YouTube videos about the Mormon Church. There's a crap ton of videos and articles about the various Christian fundy groups, cults, and once you get deep into the rabbit hole, it's honestly scary. Like straight up sinister. The domino effect that led up to World War I and then later World War II. It's interesting to learn about, but it's just a clusterfuck of easily preventable situations. Binge watching Mayday, the series about plane crashes, and looking up each incident on Google/Wiki afterwards. Sleep paralysis, audio, visual hallucinations across cultures throughout history. It's disturbing. Things about the universe. It's overwhelming, you get kind of a tremendous existential angst, but somehow you can't stop. The times where we have gotten close to extinction. There was a false report from a Russian radar thingy, and they thought that nukes were coming to them from America. If it wasn't for one person, nuclear Armageddon would have happened because of a software glitch. Another good one is how some horrible stuff like cannibalism is legal in certain scenarios. Fire disasters. And then never feel safe in an indoor crowded space ever again. There's actually video on YouTube of the Great White Disaster, and it's utterly horrifying how incredibly quickly it happens, and seeing the people literally stuck in the doorway unable to get out as they burn to death. As someone who still goes to a lot of shows at small packed music venues exactly like that one, and other totally packed bars and clubs, I'm always constantly looking for exits to find the nearest escape path, and it always freaks me out anytime there's any fire in any indoor space, candles/sparklers/pyrotechnics/etc. TV tropes. Sure, it doesn't seem deep or dark, until you look up at the clock and wonder where the last 10 freaking hours just went. North Korea. This country lives in its own reality. You can spend hours, days, or even weeks following links to find out the details of their own version of everything we think of as universal. It's like they erased all of human history and made their own culture up whole cloth. They have their own version of communism mixed with religion and idol worship, their own way of dating, science, medicine, sex, movies. They even have their own version of fabric that evidently all clothing is made of that is only made and used in North Korea. The town of Skidmore, Missouri in the US. It's sort of a small topic, but it leads in so many different directions. It's most famous for the murder of the town bully. That's a mild name for him. He was horrible, in the middle of the day, on the main street, with a bunch of witnesses, but no one has ever been arrested. But there's also the later case of a woman who was murdered and her unborn baby stolen, and even later a teenager, who was related to the murdered woman, just disappeared and is thought to have been taken by a serial killer. All this in a town of fewer than 200 people. I'm not superstitious, but I also wouldn't move there. There is a documentary on Sundance about the bully, but the best introduction is a book called In Broad Daylight. From there, you just get farther and farther down tangential paths, trying to figure out what's happened. Less info on the two later cases, but still an internet black hole you can fall into for days. Ancestry. I once spent a full 36 hours researching my family history. I literally sat on my couch and traced my family back until they came from Europe. My kids were like WTF, but I would stop to make dinner and all. I just didn't sleep. Did I mention I was completely manic at the time and was more than obsessed? Cattle mutilations are kind of fucking weird. I figured it was like some kind of a cult group, but it doesn't really account for all of them. Aliens doesn't fit every case either. Those are two of the most popular theories. Some of the explored cases were treated as crime scenes. There were forensics done that absolutely could not explain how their bodies were cut open and looted of odd choice parts, without leaving any kind of a trail. Cryptids in the Congo. If I ever get rich, I'm gonna bring 100 people to explore it with amazing cameras and deagles and see what is discovered. The Troubles is an endless Wikipedia wormhole of hyperlinking. A fascinating yet strange examination of retaliation spiraling out of control over some of the most trivial differences between fellow people. Mantises, how they fight and how evolution bizarrely went off the norm to make these violent and alien-like creatures. Especially the mantis shrimp. That thing is pretty and insane. They have club arms that attack as fast as .22 caliber bullet, boiling the water around them. And mantises straight up aim for the head and eat the brains out of prey alive. Some even hunt birds. Prion diseases. Every single one is weird and dark. It includes cannibalism and family curses. And deers walking on two legs. And industrial farming plus forced cow cannibalism. Read the history of Smedley Butler. A history you've never heard of, because people in power did everything they could to scrub him from the history books. TL. Doctor. He was an American war veteran who was beloved by the people after World War I. This was right after an event called the Bonus War, where veterans from the World War marched en masse to the White House after being promised a bonus for their time abroad but never getting it. This event was so big that the National Army was used to disband it. Smedley Butler was a part of this bonus army and they would do anything for him. He realized after being such a decorated veteran that all he was doing was earning money for big wigs instead of helping the American people. During this time, a man tried to get a hold of Smedley Butler. Eventually they met and the man said he had powerful rich friends in the United States who wanted to change our governmental system into that of Mussolini's fascist state and wanted Smedley Butler to rule it. They wanted this because FDR took America off the gold standard, which would have cost them a lot of money. Smedley, being a good patriot, blew the whistle on this. No convictions were ever made, and it was called a hoax. However, there were some very big names involved who put a lot of money into making sure nobody knew they had anything to do with it. People like Kellogg's, DuPont, J.P. Morgan, and a man by the name of Prescott Bush. Yes, that Bush. UFOs and the paranormal. I can spend countless hours watching unexplained events caught on camera. Once you get to where can weed out obvious fakes, it can be super entertaining. It's a subject that has never ceased to hold my interest. Missing persons and deaths in America's national parks and forests. The ones that didn't involve foul play are the more interesting ones to me. The debate between when you're lost in the forest to either keep moving or stay in one place to wait for help. People in either scenario have died. Geraldine Largy is a good example of this. A woman hiking the Appalachian Trail in Maine. Got off the trail and hopelessly lost. She hiked 2 miles off the set up camp and waited for help. She stayed at her camp for 26 days before she died of starvation and exposure. Even after extensive searches, she wasn't found until 2 years later. BTW, the correct method is to keep moving. Geraldine Largy. Thank you for watching Reddit Stories. May you and your loved ones have a blessed day.